Good morning. How are you all today? Thank you for visiting with us, and welcome to Bible study with Andre and Betty. We're continuing our studies from the book of 2 Kings, and we are in chapter 4. And in this chapter, we're going to see 5 miracles performed by God through Elisha, who was the servant to Elijah. So we'll see 5 miracles in this one chapter, because before, as Elijah was being translated to heaven, Elisha asked him for a double portion, and God gave to Elisha that double portion. And this is, in this chapter alone, are 5 miracles. Verse 1. Now, there cried a certain woman of the wives of the sons of the prophets unto Elisha, saying, Thy servant, my husband, is dead, and thou knowest that thy servant did fear the Lord. You know that. And the creditor is come to take unto him my 2 sons to be bondmen. And so her husband left her in debt. And verse 2, and Elisha said unto her, What shall I do for thee? Tell me, what hast thou in the house? And she said, Thine handmaid hath not anything in the house except a pot of oil. Verse 3. Then he said to her, Go, borrow thee vessels abroad of all thy neighbors, even empty vessels, and borrow not a few. Verse 4. And when thou art come in, thou shalt shut the door upon thee and upon thy sons, and shalt pour out into all those vessels, and thou shalt set aside that which is full. Verse 5. So she went from him and shut the door upon her and upon her sons, who brought the vessels to her, and she poured out. Verse 6. And it came to pass, when the vessels were full, that she said unto her son, Bring me yet a vessel. And he said unto her, There is not a vessel more. There are no more vessels. And when he said that, the oil stayed, or it stopped flowing. Verse 7, Then she came and told the man of God, and he said, Go sell the oil, and pay thy debt, and live thou and thy children of the rest. And so this is the 5th miracle that Elisha is performing, but we know that it's through and by the power of God that these miracles are happening. And then he goes from there in verse 8, and it says, And it fell on a day that Elisha, before I read verse 8 again, this verse when it says, you shall live and thy children of the rest, is the instance of our subject, God will provide. And we know from the book of Genesis chapter 22 that means Jehovah Jireh, the Lord will provide. And so now we're back to 2 Kings chapter 4, verse 8. And it fell on a day that Elisha passed to Shunem, where was a great woman, or a rich, wealthy woman, and she constrained him to eat bread. And and so it was that as often as he passed by, he turned in thither to eat bread to this woman's house. Verse 9. And she said unto her husband, Behold now, I perceive that this is an holy man of God, which passeth by us continually. He keeps going and coming back to us. Verse 10. Let us make a little chamber or room, I pray thee, on the wall, and let us set for him there a bed, and a table, and a stool, and a candlestick. And it shall be, when he cometh to us, that he shall turn in thither. He'll have his own room. Verse 11. And it fell on a day that he came thither, and Elisha came there, and he turned into the room or chamber, and lay there. Verse 12. And he said to Gehazi, his servant, Call this Shunammite. And when he had called her, she stood before him. Verse 13. And he said unto him, Say now unto her, Behold, thou hast been careful for us with all this care. What is to be done for thee? This is what you're to ask her. Wouldst thou be spoken for to the king or to the captain of the host? And the woman answered, I dwell among my own people. Verse 14. And he said, What then is to be done for her? And Gehazi answered, Truly, she hath no child, and her husband is old. So, verse 15, and Elisha said, Call her. And when he had called her, she stood in the door. Verse 16, and Elisha said, About this time or this season, according to the time of life, thou shalt embrace a son. And she said, No, my Lord, thou man of God, do not lie unto thine handmaid. And we'll see in verse 17 that she conceived. And the woman conceived and bare a son at that season that Elisha had said unto her, according to the time of life. And that's the time of life is when a woman is in ovulation, and it's during that period that she can get pregnant. And so the time of life came and she conceived. This is the sixth miracle. Verse 18. And when the child was grown, it fell on a day that he went out to his father to the reapers. Now we know from the rest of the text that this boy is very young, no more probably than 5 years old. Verse 19. And he said unto his father, My head, my head. And his father said unto a lad, Carry him to his mother. So he had a heat stroke or whatever, and he was complaining about a headache. Verse 20, and when the lad had taken him and brought him to his mother, the little boy sat on her knees till noon and then died. So we know he's a little fella. Verse 21, and she went up, she was able to pick him up and laid him on the bed of the man of God, and shut the door upon him, and went out. Verse 22. And she called unto her husband and said, Send me, I pray thee, one of the young men and one of the asses, that I may run to the man of God and come again. I'm going to go tell him what happened and I'll be back. Verse 23. And he said, the husband said, wherefore wilt thou go to him today? It is neither new moon nor Sabbath. And she said, it shall be well. So she didn't tell him what had happened. She was just assured that because of the man of God that God had sent her way, that everything would work out okay. Verse 24. Then she saddled an ass and said to her servant, drive and go forward, slack not thy riding for me, except I bid thee ride as hard as you can and as fast as you can. Verse 25. So she went and came unto the man of God to Mount Carmel. And it came to pass, when the man of God saw her afar off, that he said to Gehazi his servant, behold, yonder is that Shunammite. Run now, verse 26, I pray thee to meet her, and say unto her, is it well with thee? Is it well with thy husband? Is it well with the child? And she answered, it is well. She's talking to Gehazi, the servant. Verse 27. And when she came to the man of God to the hill, she caught him by the feet. But Gehazi came near to thrust her away. And the man of God said, let her alone, for her soul is vexed. She's distressed within her. And the Lord had hid it from me and hath not told me why she's so upset. Verse 28, then she said, did I desire a son of my Lord? Did I not say, do not deceive me? And that's back in verse 16 when she said, do not lie to me. Verse 29, then he said to Gehazi, gird up thy loins, tighten your belt, and take my staff in thine hand, and go thy way. If thou meet any man, salute him not, and if any salute thee, answer him not again, and lay my staff upon the face of the child. So this is an urgent matter. Don't stop to greet anybody. Verse 30. And the mother of the child said, as the Lord liveth, and as thy soul liveth, I will not leave thee. And he arose and followed her. Verse 31. And Gehazi passed on before them, and laid the staff upon the face of the child. But there was neither voice nor hearing. Wherefore he went again to meet him. He went back to meet Elisha and told him, saying, the child is not awake. Verse 32. And when Elisha was coming to the house, that is back in Shunem, behold, the child was dead and laid upon his bed. She had placed the child on Elisha's bed. Verse 33. He went in, therefore, and shut the door upon them twain, and prayed unto the Lord. Verse 34. And he went up and lay upon the child, and put his mouth upon his mouth, and his eyes upon his eyes, and his hands upon his hands. And he stretched himself upon the child, and the flesh of the child grew warm. So then in verse 35, then he returned and walked in the house to and fro, and went up and stretched himself upon the child. And the child sneezed 7 times, and the child opened his eyes. That's miracle number 7. And he, that is Elisha, called Gehazi and said, call this Shunammite. So he called her. And when she was come in unto him, he said, take up thy son. Verse 37. Then she went in and fell at his feet and bowed herself to the ground and took up her son and went out. Verse 38. And Elisha came again to Gilgal, and there was a dearth of famine in the land. And the sons of the prophets were sitting before him. And he said unto his servant, set on the great pot, and boil a seethed pottage for the sons of the prophets. Verse 39. And one went out into the field to gather herbs, and found a wild vine, and gathered thereof wild gourds, his lap full, and came and shred them in the pot of pottage, for they knew them not. Verse 40. So they poured out for the men to eat, and it came to pass, as they were eating of the pottage, that they cried out and said, O thou man of God, there is death in the pot. And they could not eat thereof. They could not eat the pottage. Verse 41. But he said, then bring meal. And he cast it into the pot. The meal he cast into the pot. And he said, pour out for the people that they may eat. And then the 8th miracle, and there was no harm in the pot. Verse 42. And there came a man from Baal-Shalishah, and brought the man of God bread of the first fruits, 20 loaves of barley, and full ears of corn in the husk thereof. And he said, give unto the people that they may eat. Verse 43. And his servitor or his servant said, what? Should I set this before 100 men? And Elisha said again, give the people that they may eat. For thus saith the Lord, they shall eat and shall leave thereof. Verse 44, so he set it before them, and they did eat and left thereof, according to the word of the Lord. And that's miracle number 9. And so even though this is recorded in the Old Testament and 2 Kings, Jesus will do the same thing by feeding the 5,000 and the 4,000 in the Gospels. So whatever our need is, the Lord will provide. So thank you all for listening, and we'll talk more next time. Bye.